Okay. Happy Easter, everyone. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Can you even hear me? Hold on. Let me get the microphone out. Let me check the sound real quick on my phone before. Okay. Okay, I think we're good with sound and visual. All right, so we are live on YouTube. Let me close this down. Okay, so I hope you guys had a lovely weekend. I was supposed to start this live stream about an hour and 30 minutes ago, but I had guests, so they just left, and of course here I am on the charts as a trader girly. Yeah, so happy Easter, and let's get onto the charts right away. So of course, let me move this away. So let's start with fundamentals. Go to forexfactory.com. Okay, so for this week we have starting with some gray folder. Tomorrow is still a bank holiday for a couple of countries. GBP, Euro, CHF bank holidays tomorrow. Today is a bank holiday for NZD, AUD, right? So starting Tuesday, we get to see some red, starting on Wednesday, we get to see some red folders. We have Euro red folder on Wednesday, GBP red folder on Wednesday, USD red folder, another GBP red folder as well. Then we have NZD bank holiday on Thursday, AUD bank holiday on Thursday, Euro holiday on Friday, and then some red folders. So last week was fairly slow for most of the pairs that we watch, right? Let's go to the charts. So last week was very, very slow. Like this was all the price action for last week for GJ, and like this is so little. So this week hopefully we'll see some things picking up. Yeah, so let's start with, of course I always start with my JPY pairs, right? So starting with GJ on the weekly time frame, this was the whole weekly candle for last week. Candle closed bullish, however it did not engulf the previous candle, and it's important to note that we are at a weekly level. Interesting. Daily time frame, we have a bit of consolidation right now. So, and then the 4-hour time frame still looks a bit bearish to me, just because we have not broken structure just yet. So of course what we should anticipate is we should just wait for a bit more price action to provide us for some more clarity with regards to the direction. If price is going to continue to the upside, we'll look for a break and retest of the obvious resistance level, and if it does that, then we should look to take price up to previous levels, like up there. Let's see the 4-hour. Yeah, so take price back to this previous zone here if it breaks and retests this zone. However, for sells, we want to see if price ends up respecting this structural level in the next couple of hours. Okay, if this 4-hour candle ends up closing bearish in an hour and 20 minutes, then we could see price continue to the downside. Okay, so let's watch what this 4-hour candle is going to do. However, there is no wick to the upside just yet. So if it ends up, continuing to the downside, we want to watch to see what it does at this zone as well. Let me get the arrow tool out instead. I want to watch to see what it does at this zone, right? Because remember, we drew that zone off of the weekly time frame, and that is where a couple of weekly candle bodies have used as a level of support. So if price comes back to this level, we want to watch to see what it actually does. Yeah, so just waiting and watching. That's for GJ. Euro JPY. It's a bit messy to me, to be honest. It's a bit messy. I can see why price would continue to the upside. I can also see why it will continue to the downside. Whenever I have trades like that, I literally just let it be, right? Because if I take either one, because right now, based on my strategy, like I can see why it will continue to the upside and the downside, but I would honestly prefer to wait for more data, right? I'll wait for price to print some more before I decide the direction I would want to take it to. So I would prefer a break and retest of this zone if it's going to sell. Break and retest of this zone if it's going to buy, and ultimately if it's going to continue bullish and create new highs, then stuff like this would look pretty. But for now, I'm leaving this pair alone. UJ is just dropping right now because I believe the dollar is as well. Let's see. Yeah, the dollar is dropping, so UJ is dropping too. Let's see the daily. Yeah, UJ is really extended, and the weekly was super bearish last week. We're coming up to an important level of support, so let's see what price does there. Yeah, I'm not loving UJ, to be honest. NZD JPY caught my attention. So on the weekly time frame, what do we see? So last week ended up being bullish, right? I was expecting for, was it this pair? No, it was NCAD actually. Okay, last week ended up closing bullish. Now on the daily time frame, we have approached this zone right here, right? And we see that over the past few days, price has actually failed to go above the zone. So what I would be looking out for would be something like this. So if it actually is going to go bearish, then the daily candle that is printing right now, that is going to close at 5 p.m. tomorrow, I would expect it to actually engulf and probably break this zone, right? And then to continue to downside. That's all I'll be interested in on this pair. It's a potential reversal to sell. Look at the 4-hour time frame. This is what we see on the 4-hour time frame. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to flag this as blue, and I'm going to set my alert in this zone. Okay, so let me just check if everything still looks good. Okay, yeah, we're good. So let's look at my USD list. My USD list. Okay, so last week I did mention that price could potentially, do some sort of price action in this zone to buy, right? However, I did mention that I would not be so confident in the buy just because of how bearish the immediate structure is. Okay, so I showed you the daily time frame, and I drew up this zone, which is basically a daily zone. So I would not totally discount the buy just yet. I'll just again watch to see more price action print and provide some more indication. But right now it looks like price is just ready to tank, to be honest. So what we can see is, or what we could anticipate is, for price to continue and then come back for a retest. So for price to continue, come back for a retest, and then we get in for the continuation. Otherwise, this particular analysis would still stand. Okay, again, we need to still watch for what price is going to do during the week. Euro USD, basically vice versa of, or the opposite of UCAD. I anticipated for price actually come back to this either of these zones before it continues to the upside, right? But obviously it has not done that just yet. It's continuing to the upside. If price does not come back to either of these zones, I personally would not be getting into Euro USD because my trading strategy, is specific, right? So I'm just going to leave it to do its thing. If it continues to the upside, I'll be totally fine with that. Again, I'm going to wait for some more price action to print for me to take a trade on Euro USD. USD CHF. Yeah, my analysis from last week has not played out yet. I'll still be waiting for the exact same thing. So the concept behind that is just a simple break and retest off of the daily time frame. This is an important level of support, potentially could turn into resistance. However, price is really far away from that level. So again, we just watch and wait, right? Because the market just opened for the week. So yeah, I'm not loving UJ. I'm going to take off my flag from that pair. NZD CAD, NZD USD, pardon me. Yeah, NZD, obviously it's bullish, right? But I would need a retest to get into a trade. This is the previous level of, previous break of structure on daily time frame. Price could come back to test before it continues to the upside. Whoops. So, of course, I have my alert set at the zone that I'm interested in. I'm just going to move it higher a little bit. And then I just wait. Yeah, AU does not look nice to me. Okay, so let's look at some of my cross pairs. Yeah, so this trade, okay, I remember last week I mentioned that GBP CAD could potentially buy off of this level, right? Simple daily time frame break and retest. This was a similar concept I was just talking about on USD CAD, okay? GBP CAD already did that. Now, last week I mentioned that if price was going to create a bullish candle at this zone, it could potentially continue to the upside. However, I was anticipating to get in at the break and retest just to confirm the reversal, right? Just a more conservative entry just because of how the markets have been moving recently. However, it did the aggressive, entry, right? It gave a morning star pattern on the 4-hour time frame, but never came back to retest. So if you had gotten in at the entry, right, at the closure of this candle, could have gotten a nice move from last week, even if last week was slow. So moving on to this week, let's see what could potentially happen. Okay, so on the weekly time frame, this is what we have on the weekly time frame, a break and retest. It looks like price has basically reversed bullish, right? The last couple of days have also been bullish as well. So on a 4-hour time frame, what we can potentially see is a continuation. Price could literally just continue from where it's at right now and just continue to the upside, or it could come back to retest to continue to the upside. So let's see, just 1 second. So with that being said, what I would say with this pair is, because if it actually continues to the downside, it might just be respecting structure to continue to the downside, like to continue bearish, right? But it could also continue bullish. You know what? I don't like to, do the gambling thing. If it's not clear to me, I don't take a trade. That's one thing about me. Like, if the structure is not clear, I will not be in the trade. So for this one, I'll be waiting for more data to get in. NZD CAD, I was expecting for price to come to this zone to retest to sell, but it did not do that. It literally continued to the upside, which is totally fine. There are other pairs to make money off of. So on the daily time frame, what I can see here is price is basically bullish, and could continue bullish. If this 4-hour candle closes bullish like this, it could continue to the upside, based off of just market structure, right? But because of how slow like last week was, I'm just going to wait for more price action for all of the pairs before I decide to get into a trade. So that's basically it for the technical analysis aspects of things. Now for the risk management, of course, you're supposed to set your, have a specific percentage that you risk per trade, right? Depending on the type of trade it is. So if it's a high probability trade, A plus, you want to risk properly. If it's not a high probability trade, you probably should not be in the trade. However, you could also, reduce your risk on the trade, right? So again, I'm going to be risking 18% per trade, right? That's what I personally risk at this moment. So that's what I'll be doing. And then for my psychology stays the same. I would be reviewing my personal trading journal. I have a couple of things in there that I like to remind myself of, right? I like to remind myself of who I am as a trader. So that, if the market acts funny, or, even if I feel like increasing my risk, or, things like that, I am reminded, right? So yeah, I'll be reviewing my trading journal and preparing my mind for the week, right? Because I just prepared my analysis and risk management. So I'll prepare my mind by going through my trading journal, refreshing my memory, so I can be ready for execution when opportunities present themselves. Okay. So that's basically it. Super short and sweet. Let me check the chat if there's any questions. Where's the thing? Oh, we have a couple of... Hi, Opara. Hi, Pips by Wisdom. Hi, Zila. I hope you all are doing great. Hope you all had a lovely, a lovely weekend. I hope the analysis was clear as well, just because it was super quick and all that. So we're gonna call it a day at this point, right? I'll see you guys next Sunday as well. I'm just trying to keep to my word, right? Because I just had family leave my house like a couple minutes ago. I should be chilling with my babies and all of that, but I said I'm gonna do something, so I'm doing it. So with that being said, I hope you all have a beautiful trading week. I hope you learned something from this quick analysis and broadcast. And I'll see you guys next week. I'll probably post a couple of YouTube videos and a couple of videos on our Instagram, TikTok, and all of that. So you guys can also learn during the week as well. So I'll see you guys next week. Trade safe.